Hey everyone, I'm Trish. I graduated from the School of Nursing 2 years ago, and I'm here to talk about my journey as to how I got into UCLA and hopefully offer some tips and tricks of how to get into the program if that's something that you're interested. So please stay tuned and I'm gonna get started. So the application process is pretty straightforward. You apply through the University of California website. You submit the initial University of California application, which is due I think in September, or sorry, I believe is due in November, and then you have another prerequisites packet that is due, I believe it's the middle of January, that has is specific to the nursing program. So let me just touch base on UCLA admissions. There is a few different programs that you can do if you wanted to go to school at UCLA for nursing. We have the Bachelor's of Science in Nursing, which we take freshman applications, so straight from high school, or transfer applications. The freshman applications, we take about 40 people, and then the transfers, I believe there's 10 that they take. The biggest thing I can tell you is if this is a school that you really want to go to and your heart is set on it, just apply. You never know what'll happen. Obviously, do your research, be prepared, put your best foot forward, but just apply. I've heard from so many friends of mine who are transfers and people who have applied as freshmen that they've been so discouraged because of the low acceptance rate, but you never know what can happen. It's not guaranteed that you'll get in, but I threw myself out there and I got in, and I can tell you it's one of the best experiences that I've ever had. So I just encourage you all to apply. If you are already going through a bachelor's degree at another college, you can also apply through the MECN program. That's MECN, and that program stands for Masters of Clinical Entry Nurse, I believe. I hope I didn't butcher that, but there is on the UCLA page, you can look up all the prerequisites that are needed for that, but basically you just go ahead and you apply. You have to show that you have a bachelor's degree in something else. Make sure that you also have fulfilled all of the prerequisites for UCLA. You can submit any scholarships that you have. If you're an international student, I believe you have to show that you can read and write proficiently. There's a score that is stated on the website with the test that you have to take to show proficiency. But everything is listed on the website if you have any questions about that. So I'm now going to go back to talking about the BSN program and what the process was like for applying for that. So you apply through the normal UCLA website, and then the prerequisites are separate. Those prerequisites are due in the middle of January. The 3 prerequisite things that you have to do is you need to have a resume, one-page resume. You need to have 2 essays, one preferably from a counselor or teacher, and then the other one from anybody else. And then the third thing is a 2 to 3 page essay on why you chose UCLA. On top of this, there are some courses that they recommend taking. They recommend definitely having 2 out of the 3 subjects, which are physics, biology, and chemistry. Not sure why they don't have anatomy on board there, but I ended up taking all 3 physics, chemistry, and bio. I recommend personally taking anatomy because you will need that in nursing school. You will be taking anatomy over physics, which was a choice that I had in my high school, but I took physics to just make myself look more of a competitive applicant. For the resume, I wrote a little bit about the different volunteer experiences I had and the different leadership experiences that I had. I talked about how I was on ASB for 3 years, how I played volleyball for 2 years, and how I volunteered at this hospital for 300 plus hours. I definitely recommend, if you have the time, to go for more than the 100-hour 1 year requirement, which is like the bare minimum. Definitely, if you can, show that you went above and beyond and took more time to go and do different things, to go to volunteer for this long. And if you can, during your time as a volunteer, definitely shadow a nurse, see what they do, see the different type of nursing specialties if they allow you. I know in some places you may need to be at a place for 2 or 3 years before you can get into the ER, the ICU, or maternity, but if you can check those places out, check those places out. Personally, I volunteered in like a same-day surgery sort of nursing environment, and then I moved on to volunteer in pathology because I thought that was super cool. I know that it's super not nursing related, but I learned a lot about the anatomy of the human body, and was able to have one of the doctors there who I worked with for a while write my recommendation for me, and I think that helped out and really kind of gave an extra boost to my prerequisites packet as well. So one of the people that I had help or write me a recommendation was the doctor, like I said, and then the other one was one of my my high school professors, who was also my high school counselor. So knew a lot about me, knew a lot about why I wanted to go to UCLA and why I thought it was an amazing school, and knew a lot about my work as a student because I had also worked with him in class. So find someone that knows you kind of in and out, or someone that you have talked to about college and definitely discussed different options with, and who can really put your best foot forward. The people who read the prerequisites for nursing are your nursing professors in the future. So they have told me stories about how someone has asked someone to write them like a recommendation, and it wasn't really in the best interest of the person, or it didn't really portray the person in the best light. So really be careful about who you choose to write this for you. Going back to the UCLA admissions, for the original admissions, just for UCLA as a whole, there's 2 people who read your essay. They kind of tell you from 1 to 10, and they will kind of score you, take the average of those 2 scores, and that'll really tell them, are you accepted, waitlisted, or not accepted? Something that can really help you to stand out is take something that's mundane and really kind of put your own spin on it. There was a girl recently, and she got into like all these Ivy schools, and she talked about Costco. For me, I talked about my grandma and her hands and how they danced as they were taking care of patients, and how that inspired me to become a caring, compassionate nurse, and that's why I chose nursing. So definitely take something, put your own spin on it, and just put your touches and really kind of send it with a good and open heart. But it's not something that you should, write last minute. Take your time. As for SAT scores and GPA, definitely try your best to have a good GPA. SAT scores, I don't even think that I hit 2000. I think I only hit like 18 flat, 1800. My GPA was about a 4.5 out of high school. So that's kind of really, like, that kind of showed my stats where it was kind of all over the place. But I think what really made me stand out was my recommendation letters, my consistency, my resume. In my resume, I talked a lot about the different clubs I was in. I talked about how long I was in them, and then the different things that I was able to pull off. So if I was able to get 300 people to come volunteer at this event, or increase the people who wanted to go to my high school by 30% through like open night and being part of ASB and putting on events for people, things like that I was able to do. So I would really recommend kind of showing that off in your resume. Just put like little bullet points about what things that highlight the things that you did in high school and really what makes you a good. Oh my gosh, I apologize, my camera died. So last but not least, in my Why UCLA essay, I talked about, again, about my background, what I had kind of initially talked about in that first essay for UCLA, because I didn't know if the School of Nursing was going to read that initial essay. So I talked about my background, about my grandma and how she inspired me to be a nurse. Then I did my research about UCLA and how they had a simulation lab, and the different things that I liked about UCLA's programs, like how many clinical hours they did, what the different places that we can volunteer at, the different clubs. So I talked about the school as an overall picture, and I said, this is a place that I think is amazing because of X, Y, and Z. And then I also talked about like what things I would do with my knowledge from UCLA. So I talked about how In the future, I would love to take this volunteer experience and then go and volunteer back in the Philippines where my grandmother was a nurse and kind of show my skills in a clinic, help educate people on hypertension, things like this. And that's how I kind of spun it. So I took what are these things that I can learn from UCLA and how I can apply them in the future, and then why I think I'm a good candidate for UCLA. Throughout this process, really just don't be afraid to apply. It can be really scary just knowing that there's such a small pool of applicants, but if other people can do it, you can do it too. Just do your research, really try to find other people who have done this in the past, and maybe ask them questions, or if you have any other questions that I can answer for you, please put them down below. If you want a more in-depth video on my personal experience and like how I chose like where to volunteer and what things to do in high school, just to kind of like strategically place myself as the best candidate I could be for UCLA, go ahead and give this video a like. Thank you so much for watching. This is my first ever vlog style video, so thank you for bearing with me through all of this. Please give me some suggestions if you know anything nursing related that you'd want to hear about, and I will see you in the next video.